Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for calling in to our Feel Good Friday event, which is on mindfulness. You may have noticed I'm having a little bit of technical difficulties. Um, but I would like to be respectful of everybody's time. So we are going to go ahead and get started. Hopefully you should see on your screen what you'll probably see is in front of us the title, and then on the next slide you'll see what the next slide is coming up. So lucky you, you'll see what the next slide is coming up. This is all about mindfulness and stress reduction and kind of rolling with the punches. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So I want to thank you all for coming today. My name is Sarah, and I am a member of the wellness team here at Gatehouse Media. What we are going to be doing today is mindfulness, which we're really excited about. We are going to work towards keeping everybody as on time as possible. So before I hand over the reins to Marla, I just want to put in a little plug for our next Thriving Thursday event, which is going to be at the end of the month on June 27th. And it will be at 1:30 Eastern Time. And it's going to be presented by Excellus Blue Cross Blue Shield, and we're going to be talking about controlling what you can control, and it's cancer reduction, risk reduction. So again, I apologize for the wonkiness appearance of the slides. And without further ado, I'm going to give it over to somebody who's not wonky at all. It would be Marla Pelletier. We're really excited to have her here today. As some of you, if you were able to join us last time, Marla is the president of Inward Office, which is in Rochester, New York. And they teach mindfulness, yoga, and fitness classes at organizations in the area, as well as you can tell, through the virtual world as well. They were established in 2006, and their goal is to give hands-on techniques to help people manage physical and mental stress through delivery of workshops and weekly classes. She is a certified yoga instructor, a mindfulness meditation teacher, a mindful eating instructor, which I think is something we may explore in the future, because I personally think I need that. Also helps with specialties in yoga for anxiety, depression, veterans, and is also not leastly a mother, wife, sister, daughter, leader, and friend. So I'm going to pass it over now to Marla.
Thanks, everyone, for coming. Thanks if it's your first time or your second time. Hopefully we didn't scare you away if it's your second time. And I hope you guys got to the homework if you came to the last class, because when you get to test out some of these techniques, you really get to see what works for you. Hands-on is what we're all about, not just theoretical. So we're going to take 10 deep breaths just to arrive. And actually, you know, I ran through this morning, and I want to make sure that we stay on task. Some of the feedback we got was to keep this short and sweet and do some practice. So we're going to take, actually, rather than 10 deep breaths, we're going to take 6 deep breaths together, and we're going to breathe in for 4 and out for 6. And if that timing doesn't work for you, just breathe in your normal fashion, but focus on lengthening the breath a little bit, okay? So come to a comfortable seated position. If you're multitasking, put things aside, feet flat on the floor, eyes closed. Take a moment to arrive just in your seat, feeling your body as it is right now. And I'm going to guide you through counting the breath. Inhaling together, inhale on 1, on 2, on 3, on 4. Exhale on 1, on 2, on 3, on 4, on 5, on 6. Inhale on 1, on 2, on 3, on 4. Exhale on 1, on 2, on 3, on 4, on 5, on 6. Inhale on 1, on 2, on 3, on 4. Exhale on 1, on 2, on 3, on 4, on 5, on 6. Inhale on 1, on 2, on 3, on 4. Exhale, Om 1, Om 2, Om 3, Om 4, Om 5, Om 6. Inhale, Om 1, Om 2, Om 3, Om 4. Exhale, Om 1, Om 2, Om 3, Om 4, Om 5, Om 6. And one more time on your own. And then let the breathing practice go, opening your eyes again. And that's one way you can switch yourself off from the sympathetic nervous system response of fight, flight, and freeze when you're having emotional ups and downs into a more calm and receptive space. So I like to start webinars that way or presentations that way. And the little acronym you can use to remember this is STOP. S is for stop. T is take a breath or take 5 or 10 deep breaths. O is observe, so you can observe your physical sensations, your thoughts, your emotions. And then the P is for proceed. Okay, so for a lot of us, we are go, go, go all day, and we just need to take a minute to calm down. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. Thank you. So last session, we talked about our stress reactivity cycle. So really quickly, a trigger or event happens. Our body's reaction to that trigger or event may be resistance, it may be tightness. Then we've got a message to the brain that happens and a hormone cascade that follows that influences how we act. And then we create a memory or we reinforce a previous memory with what's going on currently. And in the context of what we're talking about today, this stress reactivity cycle may just be a well-worn habit from years of steady practice. And usually that trigger, it can happen once or it can be, ongoing events that happen over a long period of time. But with mindfulness, one of the great uses is breaking out of habitual states. So that might be habitual emotions, that might be habitual reactions. And that's one way we're going to approach the flavor of mindfulness today, is usefulness in its breaking the cycle of habits. Okay, we can go to the next slide. All right, so I wanted to liken what we go through on a daily basis to that train track at the bottom. So generally speaking, our habits are like a train track, right? We're like the train. We get onto the train track and we go through a series of motions, habits strung together like autopilot. And I think I used this example during the last webinar, but one of the best examples I've found for autopilot is our drive to work. We get into the car, we know where all the controls are, we get the radio station we like, leave our driveway, have our single way we get to work, and arrive. And sometimes we find on that drive to work that our mind wanders, it hops from thing to thing. And when there's something that, derails you, like, I don't know, you borrowed your friend's car and it's a different way you're driving, or you hit a traffic jam, right? Sometimes we have a strong reaction to this. We have to use different parts of the brain. We have to engage more. We're used to, in many capacities, doing a lot of things on a day-to-day fashion, in a day-to-day way, on autopilot. And habits have their benefits. They certainly do. They conserve energy, right? They show familiarity or knowledge in a subject or in a way that your body moves. Like, for instance, I was in a yoga class recently, and the 3 other ladies that were in the class with me were very new to yoga, and the teacher had to say, oh, don't worry, she's a yoga teacher, because they saw that I had familiarity. My body was habituated to the movements, right? Same with, brushing your teeth every morning and night. You probably do that mindlessly because you're habituated to how to do it. And there's fewer decisions to make with habits. Now, integrating mindfulness is kind of like off-roading. So that dirt bike is my example of off-roading. And so we have to create a new path. We're creating new connections. We're creating changes in the brain that aren't already there. So we'll talk about a little bit about the brain training aspect of mindfulness later, but really mindfulness can help us break free from habits. They can liberate the wisdom and the creativity and the amazing problem-solving capacity that we have within our mind that might be latent, that might not be used. Thank you. It's a good thing I don't have a test and an answer slide, right? So let's go to the definition of mindfulness. Actually, I'm going to back up before I introduce this definition. A little bit about the history or what's going on now with mindfulness. It's being integrated a lot into therapy and psychology, psychotherapy practices because of its ability to manage mental suffering. The way that all of us have mental discomfort. And really, even with its roots in Buddhism, it's a secular practice in the way it helps relieve our mental suffering. And so its original kind of translated definition from its root language of Pali, it's a word that means attention, awareness, and remembering. And as Sarah kind of said, it helps us to maintain equanimity. So how do we stay balanced despite all the ups and downs, changing circumstances around us? Because I think we all know that change is really the only law of the universe, right? Things are always going to change. And so mindfulness, this definition up here comes from Jon Kabat-Zinn, who's one of the, let's say, change makers, founders of this modern knowledge of mindfulness. He had a personal interest in it, and he started the stress reduction clinic at University of Massachusetts Medical Center. And he began to integrate mindfulness-based stress reduction, short for MBSR, mindfulness-based stress reduction, into disease management. So doctors were diagnosing patients with chronic lifestyle diseases or major diseases like, cancer, heart disease, diabetes, and they were recommending that they go to the stress reduction clinic to do the MBSR program. So these were people that were in major life changes, and the program was helping them deal with the stress around that. And since then, this program, the MBSR program, is one of the main programs, maybe the main program, I should say, that's being studied in research studies now because it's been standardized. So this definition comes from him. It's paying attention on purpose in the present moment without judgment. Okay? And another one that I came upon that I liked too, which was friendliness and openness to the inner and outer experience. So pulling that apart a little bit, paying attention on purpose is really making the choice to put your focus on what's going on. Okay, so you're consciously choosing where your attention goes. So when you're taking that drive to work and your mind is wandering, often you're not actively choosing to focus on, your aunt who lives in Connecticut, and then the kid that's crossing the street, and all the different places that your mind goes. You're not consciously choosing. You're just letting kind of the mind take the wheel. Okay? So we're paying attention on purpose in the present moment. So part of the kind of theoretical foundation with mindfulness is that the present moment is the only one that exists. The past has happened. It only lives in memory. And we know how kind of not true the memory can be, right? Your memory of an event can be different than your friend's memory who went to the same event. So the past is memory, and the future is kind of all fantasy, right? We plan for the future, but I'm sure everyone on this webinar knows you have at least one experience where you planned and planned and planned, and it totally went differently. Okay? So we're paying attention in the present moment. And then that's one reason that we choose, when we do a mindfulness exercise, we choose something that is in the present moment. So I've, gone to a lot of meditation teachers and interviewed teachers that teach meditation, and sometimes they convolute meditation with visualization, creative visualization. There's a whole discipline, I'd say, that's around visualization, which is, imagining you're on the beach of Thailand, like in Thailand, and the water's lapping and the sun's on you. That is a visualization technique. With mindfulness, you're bringing your attention to an anchor, something that's right here, right now. Okay, and suspending judgment is key. If you ever attend a mindfulness anything and they don't talk about judgment, then walk out of the room, because this is one of those things that's taken me, years to kind of understand, and I'm still working super hard on it. Judgment, this judgment we're talking about is that value judgment that says something is inherently good or bad, that says something is inherently right or wrong. So of course we have that judgment that is the judgment that stops you from crossing a busy road, or the judgment that stops you from, I don't know, jumping off a stair that's too high, like something that is a discerning type of judgment. The other kind of judgment is, and you'll like this, you're talking about mindful eating and how you might be interested in this there, brownies, right? Brownies are not inherently good or bad. They're just brownies. But if you eat 3 of them, it might not meet your goal to keep your sugar intake under 50 grams a day, for instance. Or eating 3 of them may not allow you to, keep your weight in control. So in and of itself, a brownie is not bad, but the way we use the brownie, the action we take is where we can make those changes. So another way to understand judgment is, I like thinking of judgment opposite to be curiosity. Okay? The opposite of judgment is curiosity. And that really, we have a longer program that's a Mindfulness at Work program. And one of the exercises we do is just taking judgmental phrases and turning them into questions of curiosity. And it's kind of powerful when you start to approach life with a sense of curiosity instead of a sense that you know what's going on, okay? Which is sometimes how we perceive judgment, like a jumping to conclusions. Okay, and then the friendliness and openness to the inner and outer experience really highlights the fact that we have what's going on outside of ourselves all the time, and then we have the whole experience of what's going on inside of ourselves. Okay. So from a regular practice of, let's say, mindful yoga or meditation or Tai Chi or Qigong, from a regular practice in mindfulness exercises, we develop a competency in skills. So the skills might be this friendliness, this openness. It might be curiosity. It might be love and compassion or acceptance. In therapy, they do a lot with, there's a whole field of therapy that's called acceptance and commitment therapy that uses a lot of mindfulness tools. And a lot of that is just around, how do I accept what's going on right now, or even accept the past. And what we love to teach is mindfulness in action. A lot of our clients say, oh, I can't fit in, another 45 minutes to my day of sitting down cross-legged and focusing on my breath. But you can fit in usually something shorter, formal practice that's shorter, and focus on those little informal moments throughout the day that just bring you into a state of curiosity, to help you pay attention better at work. Okay, so we really like to focus on this action part. All right, so we'll talk a little bit about the research studies. Our next slide is about the research studies. Now, what I realized when I ran through this is I can go on and on about each of these, but I am going to go quickly through them for the sake of time. And what you can do is look at the studies on the last slide that are in like a tiny, tiny little font and go look deeper into them. But what's happening here is that the studies that are being done are generally small sizes. There's generally 200 people or less. Some of them have some issues in their assumptions. So they're not really super high quality studies. And I'll just put it out there. But the neat thing is that when you read about mindfulness and you read about present moment awareness in ancient texts, okay, these are like 2,000-year-old texts, what they're saying, the results they're saying, are very similar to what you're seeing science prove now. Okay, so there is similarity. Of course, they weren't testing HIV-positive individuals, but they were seeing people maintaining good health. So, really quickly, the studies that I listed here. One is that there, let's see, it's A. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say the studies first and then go back to the in-practice part. So A was they had two groups undergoing psoriasis light treatment, phototherapy or photochemotherapy, and one group was practicing mindfulness meditation while receiving the therapy, and then one group was not practicing meditation. The one doing the meditation healed 4 times as fast as the other group. Okay, immunity to the flu. There was a group that did an 8-week mindfulness-based stress reduction program. They did a flu shot at the end, and they were tested. They had their blood drawn 4 weeks and 6 weeks post after the class, post program. And those who did the MBSR program had a higher number of antibodies, so they took to the flu vaccine better than those who did not complete the program and also received the flu shot. C is for HIV-positive individuals. The CD4 T cell is a part of the immune system's cells that HIV kills. Okay, so these cell counts go down in people who are HIV positive. Now, those who did an 8-week MBSR program, mindfulness-based stress reduction program, their cell count did not diminish as quickly, and in some cases didn't diminish at all, after doing the MBSR program as compared to those who didn't. Okay, and then there's more studies that are well recognized on chronic pain, multiple sclerosis, rheumatoid arthritis, and fibromyalgia. Another one that's worth mentioning is that when you look at DNA, people that are stressed and aging have this like little cap at the end of their DNA that's called a telomere. And those that are highly stressed, the telomeres either fray or they break off, and that's a sign that the cell is going to die, it's not going to replicate. And those who practice mindfulness meditation or different forms of meditation tend to have telomeres that recover, that are intact. So you can actually decrease your slow down your cell aging or stop your cells aging from doing this. Okay. So, oh, you know what? I didn't say in practice. Why don't you go back just a second? Sorry, Sarah. Okay, so in practice, what you're going to notice when you're practicing actively is that you're going to feel less affected by stress. You're going to have a decrease in your perceived level of stress. And if you believe in the mind-body connection, which science has proven that stress increases inflammation, there's a direct correlation there, less inflammation. Okay, next slide. All right, increased happiness and decreased stress reactivity. So neuroscience is just, in the last 20 years, has accepted the fact that the brain changes based on experience. Okay, before 20 years ago, they didn't believe that the brain changed. And now they're looking at MRIs, they're doing MRIs to see what changes are happening in the brain when we practice meditation. And what they're seeing is there's this left prefrontal cortex that has higher activation in individuals who are happier and have better emotional regulation. And folks that are actively practicing meditation, short or long term, are having more activation in their left prefrontal cortex than those who aren't. And that activation isn't just when they're meditating or around the time, it's all the time. Okay, and then the second study, number B, lower and middle management employees showed lower stress reactivity and decreased sympathetic nervous system activation. So that's fight, flight, and freeze after practicing mindfulness after an 8-week course. So this is, I think, is really important because lower middle management employees tend to be the ones that are more stressed. Okay, just from what I know from our workplace wellness world here. And so I really think this relates to when you're practicing and when you're at work, because while you're practicing, you're noticing the changing states of the mind, that happiness is fleeting, sadness is fleeting, that thoughts are moving. Everything is changing even when you're in meditation, and that you're being taught and you're practicing how to ride the wave. And at work, this means that you are able to be more flexible in your problem solving. You have enhanced executive decision making, so aligning your goals with your actions, following through with your goals, and an approach mentality. I believe we introduced approach mentality last session, but the two sides of the coin are, there's an avoidance mentality. Let's say I don't like this person, I avoid them all the time. Okay, approach mentality means it's like openness and acceptance to even negative experiences, positive and negative. Okay, so this is really at kind of the cutting edge of research. It's going on right now. Neuroscientists, there's a lot of open studies going on right now. All right, next. All right, managing anxiety and depression. I believe I've included studies at the end. They're not listed here. But one of the reasons that this practice helps with anxiety and depression is because we're always returning to the present moment. So in the work I've done with teaching yoga to people who are dealing with anxiety and depression is that there's an aspect where anxiety and depression have to do with the past and the future, okay, where depression can be correlated to things that have gone on in the past, to rumination of past experience, and anxiety can be linked to anticipation of the future, fear of the future, or what may happen, worry. Oh, I heard a great definition for worry that I have to share. Worry is wishing for something you don't want. Isn't that great? Wishing for something you don't want. So every time I worry now, I try to remember, oh, wait, this is wishing for something I don't want. I'm going to stop. Okay, so at work, managing anxiety and depression can help you stay focused at work, improve your productivity, improve your job satisfaction and engagement. Okay. And this last one is my favorite. It's my favorite for today and generally for, I just say, our modern culture, and especially our modern work culture. We're all experts at the art of distraction, right? We're all experts at the art of distraction. I'm sure you have that friend that's like, I'm ADD, you know, or, you know, the friend who you have a conversation and you're everywhere on the map. So for hundreds of years, yogis have been talking about the monkey mind because, you know, yoga came from India, so did Buddhism. There's a lot of monkeys there. And the monkey mind is this idea that, like your drive to work, your mind goes from subject to subject to subject to subject, constantly switching and moving. Okay, it doesn't stay in one place. In essence, meditation is training the mind to pay attention. Okay, and at work, this has so many correlations, right? You get to work, you have a really important presentation you need to do, but first you open your computer, and then you start checking your emails, and then you start getting involved in what everyone else wants from you, and then your friend comes over and they start chatting with you about, you know, the TV show on the night before, and then you're hungry, and then suddenly it's 2 p.m. and you haven't started that important thing you had to do. So attention training is about managing your distractions. It's about prioritizing. It's about concentration. And what they found in studies is that you're able to widen your ability to pay attention, but also keep a focused attention more readily. Okay, and I can say this, you really notice this. You can really, really notice this when you start practicing. Like if I feel like I'm in the flow, you know, the phone can be dinging and the dog can be barking, and I am able to stay, you know, on what I'm doing. But as we'll learn, this is a dose-dependent activity. So next slide. Okay, so what does this mean? All of these things mean, I mean, we could go on about different benefits that different studies have shown, but really this means mindfulness teaches you resilience in a VUCA world. So VUCA is, I've heard this in some business books about the state of business, and I really feel like you guys probably know better than some other companies. VUCA is, V stands for volatility, U stands for uncertainty, C stands for complexity, and A stands for ambiguity. And so these words are used to describe how crazy work is now on a global, you know, everything's global, national, international, and it makes for a very unpredictable business landscape. Okay, so mindfulness introduces these techniques that help navigate a world that's unpredictable and constantly changing. It teaches us to befriend sensations and processes that appear painful and stressful. I really like that quote. So, all right, next. All right, so meditation is really brain training. Okay, I'm just taking a pause for a minute. We're 30 minutes into it. I probably have another 5 minutes of content. Okay, guys? Have 5 minutes of content, and then we're going to practice. Okay, so it's really brain training. So similar to going to a gym, you have to practice to see results. All right, you don't go to a gym and then pump iron one day and expect your biceps to explode, you know. You don't get up one morning and say, I'm going to go run a marathon. You have to do it over and over again to show changes. So for a lot of us, mindfulness is just like going to a mental gym. And for a lot of us, we're hired in jobs that require our minds, not our bodies, right? So we can learn things, but training our brain to stay focused, training our mind to be balanced is important to your work, okay? It helps you master, self-mastery, helps you master what's going on in the brain so that you are the one driving the car. Your brain isn't making decisions for you, okay? And then what we've learned is that our brains can change based on our experience. Okay, we can train our brains and create new connections. We can thicken our gray matter based on our experiences, right? So like musicians have a thicker gray matter in areas that have to do with their sensory motor skills. I think there was a study done on London cab drivers who have to memorize like hundreds of roads, and their spatial awareness is much better. That area of the brain is much thicker than our normal folks. All right, next slide. All right, so it's a little picture of me meditating in a photo shoot. So our home practice here. So I highly encourage you to try a home practice. Even if you say it's just for a week, I just want to see what's going to happen. It's just going to be 10 minutes a day. Just try something consistently. So a few things to consider are you going to do an informal practice or a formal? Formal is like sitting down in a quiet place for 10 to 45 minutes every day. Informal would be like taking a couple deep breaths every time you get in your car, taking a couple deep breaths every time you sit down for a meal. Okay, what's your anchor going to be? On the Simply Good Life channel, YouTube channel, we have a lot of videos that teach you different anchors. Anchor is a walking meditation. It's your breath. It's your body. Okay, where to practice? The best way to develop a home practice is to find one place you can practice every day at the same time. It could be just for 5 minutes. It could be just for 10 breaths. It could be a whole, half an hour, 45 minutes. So for me, I used to love practicing in the middle of the day right before my kids got off the bus because it gave me more energy and helped me transition. For some people, they like it early in the morning because often the mind is more quiet first thing in the morning. Or if you have trouble sleeping, it might be best for you to do it right before you go to sleep. It's a good downshifting. Okay, and then as far as expectations and goals, what you might notice is, let's say you decide to practice for a week and then you notice you're more patient with your kids. What you might say is that becomes a goal of yours. Okay, I'm going to practice so that I can maintain patience with my children or maintain patience in my job or with a certain situation. And I highly recommend finding some kind of community. Locally here, I hold a once-a-month meditation group just to get people to stay in connection with others who are practicing and talk about how home practice is going and talk about the issues that are arising. Okay, I think I stayed on, obstacles, sorry. Oh, I love this cartoon. Right, that's the truth. She could be in meditation or she could be in, a yoga pose. But there's a lot of obstacles to practicing, right? Your mind can get bored because it tends to be that monkey mind. All of these are obstacles that everybody's experiencing, okay? The reason I put it up here is because I want you to know that you're not alone. A lack of motivation. You want to do it, but you haven't figured out the time, the way, how to make space for it. Distractions and the wandering mind, that will happen. Your mind will get bored. Your mind will start thinking, and then all of a sudden, 20 minutes have passed by and you've been thinking the whole time. unusual experiences. That might be once when I went on a meditation retreat, I had this crazy tingling that would happen in my face, and I couldn't sit still because of this tingling. You might have the same thing. The goal is, just like your practice, to just return to practicing. Maybe not that day, but just return. Tension. You might notice physical sensations that are distracting you. It's important to notice them. Turn your attention, approach what's going on, and then try to return back to the anchor. And sleep. Sleepiness is real. You might fall asleep. So you have a couple choices: to go to sleep and get the sleep you need before you practice, to sit somewhere more uncomfortable rather than laying down or sitting in a comfy chair, or do something like a walking meditation, something that's more active, or a mindful yoga. And these mental processes will happen: thinking, planning, analyzing, storytelling, fantasizing. Those are all normal things that happen during a practice that you just have to get used to noticing and then keep returning back to your anchor. Okay, done. All right, so we're going to practice. I don't know if you can see that, but that guy right there is saying walking, walking, walking. And the dog is saying sniffing, sniffing, sniffing. Right? So they're fully paying attention to what they're doing in that moment. And then I like that other one because it shows you mindfulness is this anchor, and the mind is moving in the wind. Right? The mind's always moving, but mindfulness is going to keep you stable. All right, so we're going to fit in our practice. Let me see. 2:08. All right, so it's going to be, can we do 7? Can we do 10 minutes? 2?
2 minutes? Why don't we strive for 4?
4? Okay. All right, we're going to do 4-minute practice. So get into a comfortable seated position. All right, and start to notice the pace of the breath. Notice the start of the inhalation. Notice the end of the inhalation. Notice the start of the exhalation and the end of the exhalation. And then grow aware of the space between the inhalation and the exhalation. That brief moment of suspension. We're going to do an exercise in turning our attention to our sounds around us and our thoughts. So right now, bring your attention to the sense of hearing. Notice the sounds around you and let the hearing move from sound to sound. You may notice the directionality of the sounds, ones that come from below you, above you, around you. You may notice the pitch of the sound, high or low. You may notice sounds that are continuous and ones that start and stop. Tune into one sound, listening to it like you've never heard it before. And then move the attention to another sound. Notice qualities associated with that one. And then notice any thoughts that are present here. Notice thoughts about the sound, judgment, planning, or fantasizing. For a moment, just notice that chattering mind. And then once again, bring the attention back to a sound, one sound in your environment. Consciously shifting the attention so that you're choosing what you notice. And then anchor the attention back onto the breath. Noticing the depth of the breath in this moment. Notice the way the breath moves the body, shoulders, chest, belly, and back. And then continue to breathe the whole body. Slow the breath down just a little bit more. Not pushing or pulling, just easily relaxing the breath. And then slowly let the practice go. Sitting up a little straighter, tucking in the chin, and blinking the eyes open. So thank you all for coming and joining me on this little journey. We've got lots of practice chances on the YouTube channel. And although I didn't give you any homework, your homework is to try this. Keep trying it. And try to find a practice time for yourself, even if it's just 5 minutes. Sometimes the car is a great place to do this. I find that's a nice transitional point where no one's going to bother me. So thanks, Sarah.
Well, thank you so much. I have to say, I started off, as the people in this room know, a little stressed out because of the technical issues, and I feel much better now. Thank you for bringing me back into the present. I would like to, unfortunately, because of the technical issues, I don't want to open up the question board just because in case any of the questions are confidential, your name would show up on the question board. So what I'm going to do is any questions that are currently out there, I will transcribe and get them to Marla. And then I would also like to encourage, if anybody has a question for Marla, please send an email to ghmwellness@gatehousemedia.com, and I will make sure she gets it, and we'll also try to incorporate those. So Marla's going to be joining us again in October, once more in October and again in November. In October, we're going to be we'll be working on just sort of a kind of conclusion, looking at any questions that maybe people had, kind of a refresher. And then in November, we'll be working on exercises. Marla loves that word. So that we can have different exercises and things that you can do while you're sitting at your desk to try to, keep engaged and present and a little fit. So again, thank you all for taking the time to join us today. I apologize again for the technical issues. And Marla and everybody else, have a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much.